Hello and welcome to the Coven, guys. This is our monthly tea talk, and I'm here with Kat Martinez. I am Cosmic Cat, who is an incredible astrologer, just an incredible creatrix on the internet. If you don't already follow her, please go follow her for all the unicorn fun with the
Oh, you're
planets.
so sweet. I love that. Thank you.
And today we're talking about disappointment and how to manage and how to deal with it. And I just thought to ask you to come in because I feel like one thing about Kat and I is we actually have our midheavens and our ascendants at the exact same degree. So it's super nice to have someone else on this cosmic journey with us. We actually have a Coven member. Shout out to Zoe from Washington, who also is, our twin astrologically with our rising in midheaven. So Zoe, if you're watching, welcome.
Triplets.
And so many of us are kind of dealing with disappointments in different aspects of our lives right now, or have been disappointed. I mean, the pandemic has brought out so much, and many of us are not exactly where we thought we would be, and we can be quite critical on ourselves. And I know you're going through a bit of a transition in your own life right now, which is like, finding acceptance. I am too. So why not talk about these things? The internet forces you in so many ways to appear like everything's great and only talk about the wonderful things. And I just think it's bullshit. And so let's talk about how we manage disappointment today. So disappointment is caused by a discrepancy between our expectations and reality. That's the definition of disappointment. How does it make you feel, Kat?
Oh man, I love that you said that, like, you thought of me first, and I'm like, something about being a Virgo rising is just like, you're just meant to walk through life completely fucking disappointed with everything and everyone. So I love that you thought about me when you're like, let's talk about disappointment.
I feel like you're the person I always like gripe with, and we both have similar gripes, and we've had to manage a lot of stress over
Also, I'm like such a hater, and I'm like fine with being a hater, because I've always felt like, I feel like just because a majority of people are into something or believe something, it doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it good, and it doesn't make it cool. So I feel like, my whole life I've always just been like, what is wrong with everyone? I'm like, everyone likes this movie, I think it's garbage. Or like, no one likes this person, but I do. I see them and I think they're cool. So I don't know. Maybe that's what happens when you're like a Capricorn Uranus too. Like, maybe it's in my 5th house. So I feel like I'm weird about the things I find joy in. But I'm always disappointed. I feel like I'm usually, believe it or not, I'm like usually disappointed like in myself, which is the worst. That's such a Virgo rising thing. Like, you think Virgos or Virgo rising or Virgo placements are critical about you? Like, you should see us get in the ring with ourselves.
We have Capricorn in our 5th house, and yes, Capricorn can be totally fun and in charge, but it's also kind of like that old lady in our heads that's
it's
like
a bummer.
in the fun house,
It's a huge bummer. Like, we're 12th house Leos and 5th house Capricorns. What the hell happened there?
It can be quite challenging. And you have that Scorpio 3rd house that's super critical and trying to get to the bottom of something. And so we never feel satisfied until we can figure out the reason and then root out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said there, but not everyone watching this is a Virgo rising. So I don't want to get stuck in that. I mean, you can be disappointed too, and you could be a Libra. And
oh, totally. Let's go through all 12 signs. I'll tell you a reason they're disappointed.
I love it. Okay. Leo, why is Leo disappointed?
Oh my God. Leo is disappointed that people don't like see them. I feel like that, like, really, even the quiet Leos, because people have this, idea like, oh, a Leo is always like flamboyant. And I feel like even though it's their destiny to be in the spotlight, a lot of Leos kind of like shy away from it, but that doesn't mean they don't want to be like seen, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like when people kind of like miss that, or when people like bum them out, like rain on their parade, it's just like, ugh, like, why do you suck?
Yeah. I think Leo risings, like, they get this reputation for being like self-serving, which is like not my experience of them at all.
Yeah.
Like they often give too much, and they don't think of other people, or I'm sorry, they don't think of themselves before other people. So I
Yeah.
feel like Leo risings might be disappointed because like they want to fit in, but they're like not appreciated. I think that they
Yeah.
feel, it's not that they feel mad when they're not seen. Of course they do too, but I think it's deeper than that. I think
Yeah.
they need to feel appreciated. Like they need to feel like
Yeah.
the work that they're putting in, like
It's
someone noticed
valued.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
that. Okay, you're a Taurus. Why is Taurus disappointed?
Oh my God. Why am I disappointed? I think as a Taurus and Taurus moon, I feel like I'm disappointed when I like waste my energy on like people or things or anything, because I feel like earth signs are like, I know water signs get the like, oh, water signs are deeply intuitive, but I feel like earth signs are incredibly intuitive as well. I mean, everyone is, right? But there's just something about that earth sign intuition. And it's usually that I told you guys this wasn't going to be good, or I told you that person wasn't shit. So I feel like that's when I get disappointed, is like when I feel let down, and I put, if I commit to something, I give like 110%. And if
Yeah.
a situation or a person gives me like 40% back, I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like I literally,
I'll support mozzarella stick for this one.
yeah, you need it because you feel it too. That's also what disappoints me, is my Virgo friend having a mozzarella stick on the screen in front of me, and I don't fucking have a mozzarella stick. So that's really bumming me out. Virtual bite.
If you were here, I would give you the last one. I feel like
So
Taurus
sweet.
ones, like the ones in my life, the ones that I know that are clients, I think they get mad too when they invest in people and
Yeah.
really pay off. Like that, because time is money,
Yeah.
and so
We're
like
so selective. Like we're so fucking selective. Like I don't have a very big circle. I just don't, because it's like you said the best word, investing is the best word. I said like conserving energy, but it's like if I do something, I'm like, all right, this train's not stopping. And then the train is going, and then we like hit a block, or I'm just like, wow, this is just not giving me what I am putting into it. Oh
mm,
man, like huge bummer. Huge, huge bummer.
why is Aries disappointed?
Oh my God.
Not,
That things don't the what?
not doing the right thing. I think that they get very mad about the principle of the matter sometimes. Like
Okay.
they have such strong reactions because they're just like,
Yeah.
that like when they see somebody doing something in a way that just doesn't make sense to them, like you could have done
Yeah.
this your time. I think it's
Yeah.
irritating to them. So like I see that sometimes. I have an Aries niece who I love to death. And I've just always noticed that like she'll sometimes critique other people for not doing things the right way.
Yeah. But what she really means is like her way.
Yeah. But the truth is we would probably save a lot more time if we did it her way. But some people have to learn to do things a different way.
Yeah, totally. I feel like Aries probably seems like one of those signs that's like disappointed the least. Like I think or like disappointed the most, but I feel like they don't dwell on it. Like they're disappointed the most because, huh?
They get it out.
Yeah, they get it out and they're in your face and they blow up. Like I'm an Aries Mercury, so even like that, I don't really like hold on to like arguments or anything like that. I'm like, I'm done with this. Like I
Yeah.
spoke my piece, you spoke your piece. You suck. I'm ready to move on. And I feel like that is like good. So Aries placements, if you're watching this, I don't know. Tell us what is it like to be God's favorite? To let things go and move on so quickly. What is that like as a like triple or as a like predominantly fixed sign?
Why do you think that Gemini is disappointed right now? Gemini, what's going
Gemini.
on?
Geminis. Why are Geminis disappointed? I think maybe it would be a little similar to Aries. It's kind of like if people not doing things like a certain way, or I don't know. I'm stumped on Gemini. What do you think?
I think in the case of like Gemini moons, I think that they can sometimes get a little annoyed with people who are a little too sensitive. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Get annoyed when they have to do someone else's job for them. You know what I mean? And so I think that like a lot of their anger or frustration can be because, usually they're the helpful friend. They're the first one to listen to you. They're going to try to get you out of your house. They're going to try to cheer you up. But if you're like, taking advantage of that, or if you're like not holding up your end of the deal, or you're like too needy or expectant of them or codependent, they can be.
Okay.
That
seems like it. Yeah. I was talking, as we're talking, I'm like, are we losing the thread here? Because I'm like, I don't think anger is the same thing as disappointed. Yeah. It's like disappointed is like, what is the expectation? And then where do people fall short of it? So yeah, it's like for Gemini, it's like they expect people to be like one way, like maybe like in a dating situation is like they expected you to be fun and like hot and easygoing the whole time. But then like shit gets serious and they're like, oh, like this really sucks because I thought I expected you to be this fun, vibrant, intellectually stimulating person like I am all the time. And now suddenly you want to like talk about our feelings or talk about that fight last night for the 5th time. And I've already like moved on, and that would suck for them.
It's such a Gemini moon thing too. Cancer. I think Cancer is another one that like needs to feel appreciated like Leo.
Yeah.
Build up a lot of resentment when they're taken advantage of or people
totally
boundaries. I always think about, Capricorn is kind of boundaries, right? And so they're always at odds with that in a way because that's their sign. I think Cancer also gets disappointed when they feel like their territory or their sense of home or comfort yeah, you were gonna say?
Yeah, because I'm a Cancer Mars.
Okay.
We're both 11th house Cancers, and like I've thought about that placement of mine a lot, and I think about how I was thinking today. I'm like, okay, we're gonna talk about disappointment today. I'm gonna talk about what are the things that disappoint me, and I think about how growing up, and even now, sometimes as an adult, how my friendships have disappointed me, and I am an 11th house Cancer Mars. So like everything you're saying is like so true, is like the not feeling appreciated or feeling like some kind of like my stabilities or like there's only like so much I can give, like I'm always the friend that people go and like, they want to like cry on my shoulder, and like I'm here for it. But then I'm like, okay, I don't. Classic Cancer Mars, I'm like, who's gonna offer their shoulder when I have to cry? And I'm like, no one's emoting, no one's as like empathetic as I am, so that's that Cancer Mars disappointment.
Like theirs is like that's when they shell up and become the Cancer, you know what I mean, like they're disappointment, like bitterness or like reclusiveness. And you think just thinking about the different emotions that come up with the different signs too, because I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but like you can learn a lot from that about yourself if you really study it. We did Leo, Virgo. We talked a little bit at the beginning. Do you have anything else to say about Virgo? Or did we?
We hit it. We're like, Virgo is just generally disappointed at everyone and everything. Nothing's ever good enough, including ourselves. Cheers.
So Libra, why is Libra disappointed? Libra's disappointed because, again, I think that's another one that like their expectations can be a little high sometimes.
Yeah.
And Yeah. And so they can be disappointed when it's not as easy or harmonious as they wanted it to be. Like they essentially can like
Yes.
realize maybe people are a little tougher than they thought that they were going to be, or they're going to look differently, or they're going to
Yes.
respond differently to information that you're giving them. And then, maybe they're not expecting a messy reaction. And then, that makes them feel uncomfortable because they have to like navigate conflict in some sort of way, So I think that that's a very Libra thing. I
You
think,
hit the nail on the head, because that is exactly why I broke up with my ex-boyfriend, who was a Libra. And I'm an Aries, Venus, Mercury. And it was like a messy fight. And he just like, I'll like never forget the look in his face at like me blowing up and like
yeah,
freaking out, classic Aries, Mercury temper. And I feel like after that, he just like never saw me the same. He was just like, yeah, this is not what I signed up for. I wanted you to be happy all the time. And I was like, well, shouldn't have probably dated a Aries Venus.
very fair. Okay, so where are we? Then I guess we're just Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Why-
Ooh, Scorpio. Oh
Oh,
my
they
God, why?
mean lots of things. Lots of reasons Scorpio is disappointed.
Lots of reasons why Scorpio, but like, okay, if we had to like say,
If someone is cheap, Scorpio gets really mad. So that's like another one where like Scorpios, like you need to pay attention to the energy give and take with Scorpio, I feel like, because they're another one
oh,
really can overgive. But I think that Scorpio holds the resentment the tightest, and they can be a little bit more tit for tat.
oh, okay, yeah, they keep score
And I
a
think
little
that
bit.
I
Hmm.
think that like when someone's not, I mean, the obvious is like someone's not being honest with them, and they think that somebody is like a true friend, and they're withholding information. That's obviously going to disappoint them.
Yeah,
But I
because
think
it
that,
takes them so long to like open up and
yeah,
to let people in, and then yeah, someone's in your house, and then you're like, oh God, I should have never let this person in my house, and that's
yeah,
like a Scorpio nightmare.
yeah. I think that Scorpios have to deal with a lot of give and take, and this doesn't always have to be financial. This can be
Hmm.
energetic as well. But they're defining boundaries and in this lifetime in some ways. I think
Hmm.
like Scorpio people, they have these issues where they need to transform, they need to change, they need to, be the phoenix, because there's something that's clearly not working in other lifetimes. So I feel like,
Hmm.
especially like with a Scorpio moon or Scorpio Venus, they're so, or especially Scorpio rising, they're so slow to kind of warm up to people, that if they feel like something's like very hypocritical, or if they're giving a lot of energy or money, Scorpio
Hmm.
can be very generous. They can be like the first one to be like, I'll pay for this, kind of thing. But
Hmm.
if they feel like you're taking advantage of that in any
Game
sort of,
over.
they get very upset about that. And so I think that that's, and again, this doesn't have to be financial, but it can be.
Yeah, because we're talking about like, Taurus and Scorpio axis, we're talking about resources. Scorpio is definitely like the let's build
Yeah.
sign. Do you watch Love is Blind?
I don't, I need to start. Everyone keeps recommending it to
Okay,
me.
yeah, I feel like so once you like watch it, and like once you learn all their signs, you'll be like, oh my God, this is like, maybe we could have a whole nother talk about the astrology of Love is Blind. But there was one character in particular there, Nancy, which I'm sure people in your coven have watched it and know Nancy, and she is a Scorpio. And it was just some of the conversations that came up, like she straight up asked Bartiste, aka Barista, aka whatever name they gave him, like, oh, how would you feel like if we had a baby and like we had to like abort a baby? Like, basically, how do you feel about abortion? Like, all these serious topics came up. And then like she like has a real estate business like with her ex-husband, like all these like little like, and I feel like Scorpio is so just like consumed with like attachments. So it
Yeah.
is like you said, like even though it's not financial, it's very much like an us energy. And it's just like she was crushed, obviously, like by like the end result and how the relationship, transpires. Sorry, spoiler alert. But yeah, I feel like that was just like a textbook example of like Scorpio disappointment. Is like she was ready to go all in and like merge their lives together, which is, I feel like, such a Scorpio thing. Like they just want to be like one. And it
I
just
like,
like didn't work.
yeah. So Sagittarius, why is Sagittarius disappointed?
Like, I don't know, literally like for nothing. I feel like Sagittarius is the same vibe of like Aries, where like it's like, is this done? I think they're disappointed
Why
by
didn't you think about this? Like, what were you thinking? Like, what was the thought process?
Is that Sagittarius disappointment?
Yes, that's Sagittarius. I feel
Yeah. Like small mindedness, like really, like I feel like Trish mom, like it's like, don't harsh my mellow. Like I'm trying to like live big here, think big, like think outside of the box. And I feel like when people are kind of like, oh well, I want you to be in this box, even like, within a relationship, it's like, oh well, I don't really wanna like live in a van for like, or like honeymoon in Bangladesh. And Sagittarius was like, what? I thought you were cool. I thought you were like down.
yeah. Why is Capricorn disappointed?
That's another sign that I feel like is just generally disappointed.
At a Capricorn,
right?
Make a list. No, I'm just kidding.
How much time do you have?
My mom constantly disappointed because I didn't have anything to brag about with my job, which I think is like,
okay.
Thing. But really, like, why? Let's see, Capricorn. Why are you disappointed? Capricorn's disappointed when people don't use common sense.
Yeah.
When they think that something is going to be very simple, and then like other people interfere in a way to make it really complicated.
Yeah. I think I have a Capricorn mom, so I feel like I'm an expert on this. But I would say Capricorn is disappointed when people don't come through for them. Because Capricorn is like, if you have a problem that needs solving, if you have a last minute event that needs planning, if you have an emergency and like, no one can help you, your Capricorn friend or person will be there and will fix it. And I feel like they don't really expect that of people. I think they kind of just like shoot themselves in the foot that way. And like, you can like, you can tell me maybe if you feel the same, but I feel like they keep their expectations of people very low.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes it really easy for people to like let them down. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I always think about Olivia Rodrigo because she's that Capricorn moon. And I think about not keeping through, like not following on your commitments, the things that he was supposed to, drive the car with her when she got her driver's license. And he, like that's what I think about. So I think it's real mad when like someone commits to something and then you don't pull through. I think there's something really real to that.
But they knew it. They're not surprised. Like they're like, they're like figures, and they're like, okay, now more of a reason for me to just do every single thing by myself.
Yeah, I have a brother that's a Capricorn son, so I am thinking about that too. I've had a lot of Capricorns around me. Aquarius. Why is oh god, I guess this is mine.
This is you. Why are you disappointed?
Because people are boring. Because you like this happens to me a lot. This is just my take as an Aquarius moon.
Give it to us.
Yeah, like I feel like sometimes I can idealize what a person's going to be like and how interesting they're going to be, and I get disappointed when they're like kind of boring. Or like there's not like something kind of edgy or weird about them that I can like I get very irritated and disappointed by boring conversation and lack of depth. And when people can't engage, like here's something that's interesting. You hear a lot about Aquarius placements being really detached and things like that. I don't really relate to that. I think we can be highly, I mean, Connor Oberst was a Aquarius sun and moon, and he wrote the most depressing songs of all time, right?
Yeah, because I feel like Aquarians are generally disappointed by like the state of the world. And that's like really heavy because that's almost like an existential disappointment, and you think of Aquarian energy.
It's like, why? Like,
exactly. Like Saturn in Aquarius, for the past few years, that's been like pinnacle of Aquarian disappointment. Like everyone fucked up trying to keep it together during this pandemic, and then, fucking up with like inflation, and like fucking up not being there for people and not advocating for disabled people. And it's just like, you're like, and I know we talk about this a lot. Like, you talk about this a lot. And I feel like we definitely relate on that because, you're an Aquarius moon, and like I'm going through my Saturn return. So it's like
when I see boiled down, boring, lack of depth astrology on the internet, like nothing more than seeing a meme with like 20,000 likes or something crazy that just says nothing, when there are like great astrologers on the internet with like 1,000 followers, and they make these really heartfelt, deep, poetic posts and know them. So things like that, like inequalities like that, really annoy me.
Yes.
Intellectual based ones, I guess.
Yeah, we could go on about our astrology.
It's a
community hate.
Disappointed. I feel like Pisces perpetually is disappointed because people don't care enough, because people aren't as they imagined, because they feel like manipulated by people, or blind their detriments in some way.
Disappointed by reality, disappointed in being like, this is it, this is what I get. I don't get a white knight, I don't get a crazy adventure, I don't get a love of a lifetime, I get this. And I feel like that sucks for my poor little Pisces babies.
I wanted to bring up this idea of, when you feel disappointed, like the first thing that they do is, you have to sit with your feelings. People talk a lot about sitting with your feelings and how frustrating. And I think it's good to observe what the negative feelings are, because I think that those feelings can give you a lot of information. So like, for example, I wrote down, bitterness shows where you need to heal judgments on yourself and other people.
Oh, yes.
So bitterness, if you're starting to feel bitter, maybe meditating on what expectations or judgments might need to change, even ones that are self-inflicted in some way. Resentment shows you where you're living in the past and where you are lacking boundaries in your life. Because what do we resent people when they are overstepping their boundaries, right?
Yeah. Okay, I love that.
Anger can show you what you're passionate about, what you believe in, what you're willing to fight for. So it's not always a negative thing. So if you're like really angry about something, please know it's also showing you what you get like worked up about. And so you can quit whatever you're doing. Like say you're applying for a nonprofit job that you think that you should get because it's a thing that you really care about and you're specifically great for the role, but you don't get it and you think you're going to get it. Like how many times does that happen to us, no matter what the job? What it's telling you is that, you care about this topic. So don't, fuck this job, right?
Yeah, like, it's bigger than the job. It's bigger than that. It's more like the purpose. Other
areas, or, say, will you hold on to my resume until a more appropriate fit, comes up for me, and you're, there's different ways you can address it, or you can just say, fuck you. But we're talking about managing it today.
Yeah.
So disappointment can shows where you didn't like give in to apathy, which I think is like,
that is really, really beautiful. And, I think we kind of stumbled on the same thing because I was thinking about it and I was like, what is disappointment really? And it's like, disappointment shows that like you had hopes for something, like you really believed that something could be, really good or like really amazing. And like, that's kind of like beautiful, right?
Again, I bring it back to Homer Simpson. Where is he? Our good friend Homer. Trying is the first step towards failure.
Yeah, exactly. That's really all it is. I'm like, yeah, failure and disappointment go hand in hand. I don't know. I feel like I've failed lots, and I'm, being on my own and like trying to build my own business. I feel like I'm face to face with failure like a lot. Like looking it in the face and being like, it's you again. And it's hard to sometimes, like, you can see it as this like awful thing. Or I'm trying right now, what I'm doing for myself personally is to try to like reframe it and just be like, this is just like evidence of me trying to get something out, and it's not bad that it didn't come out the way that I really wanted it to. It just means like I get another go at it. I get to like refine it. I get to make it better. And yeah, sometimes I think reframing it like that makes you feel like just a little bit better about it in the moment.
What are some good reframes that you use when you feel disappointed? Or can you give me a circumstance that you went through recently where you feel like you had to reframe things in a way that could help other people?
Oh my God. I'm like, how much time do we have? I've been like super like emo these past few like weeks. Scorpio season has not been fun for me. And I wasn't really worried about it, but it just, it got me. But yeah, I think the reframe is like that, just reframing it as I try to create something, and that's hard. So I give myself credit for being vulnerable, right? Like there's something like, it's really easy to be tough and hard and like not let anything in. And like, this is why it's so hard to be perfect, because it's like nothing. It's just a brick wall. There's nothing going on here. And it's like, it really takes guts and moxie and like softness and creativity to be like, to fuck up, to put yourself out there and be like, oh my God, I made this thing and it's awful. But like there's something about the spirit of creating that thing that's like, it's so nice. It's so much better. I feel like the world would be a better place if people were more comfortable with like, fucking shit up.
I think that failure absolutely necessary. I think it's
Yeah.
humbling. I think that,
Yeah.
and I think that failure really is in many ways some of the best, the best lesson in how to grow a thick skin and rebuild and regroup. And I think it's when people who, don't accept failure, can, kind of develop like a sense of narcissism about the world, or
Yeah.
entitlement. So I feel like when I fail at something, I often have to take like a step back and ask myself, what did I learn in this situation? What is like one tool that I can take along with me into this like next chapter? So like in dating, for example, like, that can hurt so much. I know so many people who deal with like rejection dysphoria, which is like very real. And like, I keep thinking about, this, I almost see it like as a trail of breadcrumbs, where even if it was like a failure, technically, like each failed relationship or friendship that I tried to engage or nurture really brought me to the next person in a way, because there was like specific I needed to learn. Like I had this like weird feeling a few years ago, like where I was like sleeping with somebody new for the first time. And I was like, I don't know if this is really going to go anywhere. And it didn't. But like, I remember thinking about like, we were kind of like having this moment where we were talking, and I said a few things about like, he was very into pinball. And the only reason I pinball, but like the only reason I knew anything about pinball was because of the two people that I had dated prior. There was like a pinball history there. You know what I mean? And
I love that.
oh, hot. Like he looked just like Chris Pine. He was super hot. And I remember thinking, like, I don't care if this doesn't work out, like now I understand why I had to be with bleep and bleep before this, because this is freaking awesome. And so, like I try to look for that kind of lesson as well. And I think when things are really painful, when you're dating and you really do like somebody, and then they ghost you or they don't call, you know, like handling that can be so tough, and it's never really like, think about all the times that you maybe had to ghost somebody or you thought about ghosting somebody. A lot of those times it isn't something like there's anything wrong with the person. It's
Yeah.
just like, maybe I just didn't see a future and I didn't like, I try to be really good with it, but like I know when I was younger, I probably wasn't so great with it. And I did
Yeah.
probably ghost to some people, but like it wasn't anything was wrong with them. They were handsome, they were, a catch. But like maybe I just didn't feel that spark. And
Yeah.
remember that like dating has nothing to do with your own value. It has to do with so many other things, like, whether this is going to like work out long term. Do we have the same goals in life? Do and even like with attraction, like you can have great sex with somebody and have super attraction and really like them, but if they're not going to like meet certain expectations that you need for like a lifestyle that you want, like like maybe you want to move to New York City one day, you know what I mean, and like this person is all country. Like there's so many reasons that people ghost. It has nothing to do with your own value, and I know that's easier said than done, but you have to understand that like when someone is dating, it's not like they're looking for the one and they're telling you you're not the one. That it's just telling you that this is not maybe like the right fit, maybe and sometimes that's even a compliment, especially when you're an asshole, like that's another thing I like to think about. Like, do you really want to be with a person that can't communicate? Like,
yeah. And
like,
that's probably like an important part of like, handling disappointment, is that part, that like releasing that expectation. Because I feel like that's when like disappointment really starts to like stew. Is like you said, it's like you're holding on. Like, why are you holding on to a person that can't communicate to you? Like that's
yeah,
like that's garbage. Like you need to like you need to like release that expectation. Like maybe this person is not a good communicator, but maybe the next person will be. And if we're like still stuck on this other person that's a really bad communicator, we're never going to get to move on to this next person that's, cross fingers, a really good communicator, and like maybe super hot and funny and like rich too.
yeah. And I think this comes to like family. I think another thing is like family issues too, is where we can see it a lot. Like, there's some people who don't have great relationships with their parents, or loved ones. And whether it's like a sibling, whether it's a parent, you can't really escape those bonds a lot of times. And so, especially for me, there's certain relationships in my family where like, this year has been really hard for me because like I wanted to have a different relationship, and the relationship that I had was fine in my 20s when I didn't really know myself very well or my patterns, but it becomes hard, right? Like when you do recognize those things and you're doing like that work on yourself and you realize that, your parents or your siblings or whoever it might be might not be able to act or in the way that you need them to, or have the relationship that you desire with them. And that can feel really crushing. And like, again, easier said than done. But I think that over the last year, I've had to accept that like it is what it is with my family. And I take it as that. And it has nothing to do with me. A big thing that someone said to me, I might cry. A big thing that someone said to me when I was younger that like really helped me. I had a narcissistic parent that raised me, and they were always lying to me about things. And I didn't have the word gaslighting back then, but that's what it was. It was so confusing to me, especially being autistic, not really understanding why loved me, couldn't just tell me the truth. And I had a really good family friend who sat me down and he just looked at me and he was like, she's been lying to herself this entire time. How can she be honest with you when she's lying to herself? And I had never thought about it that way before. And I think that that's also something that we can back pocket when we feel not good enough. You know what I mean? Like if, you need to really evaluate the level of integrity and honesty that somebody has with themselves. And if they're not able to do that for themselves, how the hell are they going to give it to you? You know?
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, my heartstrings. Yeah, that's
Thank you, cousin Ray.
took us to church. Yeah, that's so true. I guess yeah, disappointment kind of like goes both ways in that
For
in that
sure.
sense.
Yeah. So just to wrap this up a little bit, what do you think if like your BFF was struggling to maybe you're watching this in the future, you just got denied for a job you wanted, you just got dumped, whatever it might be. I want you to give me your 3-minute pep talk, your best 3-minute pep talk. Go.
Oh my God, am I ready? I feel like I've given lots of pep talks. That's kind of like my thing. That's like
I know
Leo.
that's what
It's Leo Chiron thing. Okay, here's the pep talk for being disappointed. It's okay to be disappointed, firstly. Validating that you tried for something and you wanted something so bad is really fucking cool and really fucking beautiful. And I'm so sorry that things didn't go the way that you had hoped, the way that you had wished, and the way that you had dreamed. But I I promise you that the world has other plans that you right now have no idea of, because you're just this little tiny star in this huge expansive universe, and there's so many other ways that this is going to go down and that things are going to look up for you. And you know, rejection is redirection, which is what we talked about. It's like sometimes you get pulled down a path or pulled away from something because there's just something better for you. And I believe it. And I believe it because there have been so many times in my life where I thought I wanted something and the universe was just like, nah, that's not it. And you think the universe is taking it away from you because it's like here to spite you or here to be petty, but it's not. It's just the world and the universe and your guides have they have higher hopes for you than you could even have for yourself. So feel the disappointment, let it wash over you for as long as you need to, because I'm a firm believer in wallowing. I love it. I love being a drama queen. But then fucking let it go and like move forward and don't look back.
I love that. I wrote something. I wrote, what did I write? Sorry.
That's okay.
I said, when you get disappointed, all it is information. It's more information. And you can transmute that knowledge to propel yourself forward with the information that you received from that. And that doesn't mean you have to do that thing. It just means maybe in the next interview, now you know not to do the thing, or maybe to rephrase it in a certain way. Yes. You know, so whatever it might be, just think of things as more information, I think is good.
I love that. I feel like that's so Aquarius moon of you. It's like I'm just observing. It's very neutral. It's a neutral way. Like we color things with disappointment. Things just happen.
Yeah.
You know, and like we both read tarot, and I feel like I talk about that a lot with like my clients. Is just like the situation is colored by the feelings that you like put to it, you know, and it's like not always necessarily like not every situation is like good or bad. Sometimes it just is. Like you said, it just is. It's just information. And then, you know, what you decide to do with that information, you know, you can take it and, you know, run with it and change it, or you can hold on to your disappointment for longer too. That's cool too. I'm a big fan of that sometimes.
I love that. Hold on one second. I was gonna pull something up for you guys. Just a moment. I'm just looking for this really quick. Sorry. Watch it just be the Homer Simpson meme again.
Oh my God, Homer.
So I think one thing, okay, can't find the thing I was looking for, but I remember what I was going to say. I had written something down about, I think one of the biggest things that we can do to avoid disappointment is to, again, have our expectations kind of neutral about things.
Yeah.
And not to build like assumptions in our minds about everything. I've
Yeah.
used this method a lot and it sounds so silly. And if you've been with me for a long time, you've probably heard me talk about this. But I remember there were these Leo eclipses that were, hitting my son back many years ago. I think it was like 2016, 2017. And I was going through some transitions in my life where I wanted to make a lot of mindset shifts for the very first time and kind of walk more of a healing path. And I remember thinking at this time, like one of the best tools, I mean, I love role play. Like role play is my thing. So if role play is for you, you might like this activity. But I loved, and this is again, very Aquarius moon, I loved pretending I was an alien from another planet. And I could not judge anything or anyone's behavior for the next year. I can only observe the behavior and be curious about the behavior and ask questions and begin to understand it more. And so it got me out of this mindset of making assumptions or making quick judgments. And I learned so much about myself that year. And all of these limiting beliefs that I had or notions I had about people or how people are going to be. And so took critique off the plate for me, which was very challenging as a Virgo rising, and sort of set things into being more open and receptive and curious. And so one of the things I was going to say is if you're ready for a mindset shift and you're dealing with a lot of disappointment, maybe try this exercise. It's admittedly very hard, unless maybe you have an eclipse against your sun like I did. But I think it's doable. And I think that it's an interesting little experiment, like, because when you take judgment off the table, you aren't attaching emotion to things. You're just attaching curiosity,
Yeah. Just like you said, like the information. That is so cool. I love that you did that. Did you find that it helped you also be like easier on yourself? Because I'm guessing you're not able to critique anyone else. So, by definition, you're not able to critique yourself as well.
This is like, again, when I started doing a lot of inner parenting work where I was literally having to talk to myself out loud and correct, like my whole thing was, I would always be like, you're so stupid, B, you're so dumb. Like, why would you do that? Why? And I would be like, that was kind of my thing. Like, why'd you say that? That was so dumb. Like, you leave a room, like, and then I started going, well, you only had this amount of information. Next time, you're not going to make an assumption and you'll do better next time. And I literally would have to say that to myself repeatedly. I still say, and what we're doing is we're building a neural pathway in our brain towards a different way of thinking. And so it's not just silly, they say like you learn something better when you write it down. As that was my way of like, I have to say this out loud. I have to build that neural pathway.
I love that.
Talking to yourself probably means you're healing.
Yes. Maybe not to the people around you, but you will know.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming tonight. Like, I really enjoyed this. And my goal is to start doing these tea talks more frequently. I was doing them a lot last year. I think that they're important. I love learning astrology, and we did talk astrology tonight a little bit.
We had to throw it in there.
But I also think it's important for us to get together with other people and talk mental health topics once a month. This is my contribution to the world. And so, Kat, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was great. I love you and I love your coven. I could talk to you about anything and everything, but I'm really grateful that you thought of me today for this one and that, we could talk about this and have some fun.
Hell yeah. Guys, if you haven't already, check out Kat's courses. I have a whole bunch of her courses or workshops, Thriving Saturn, Star 69. You can all, I mean, they're if you are an Astro School member, you have access to them right now. So if you enjoyed Kat and you haven't watched her workshops here, please do. Oh, and Aesthetic Alchemy. You have Aesthetic Alchemy too.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. There's 3 workshops that we have over here. So get more Kat. Kat, you just released a brand new spell in a bottle.
Yeah, it's so cute. Yeah, so I make my own spell mist. I have one for love, one for abundance, and one for cleansing because I take that shit super serious. And I don't know if you have any like Toronto peeps in your coven, but I'll be doing live mini readings at a market on Saturday, and I'm so excited. And I'll be slanging my spell mist too. Yeah, you can just go to iamcosmiccat.com, and I've got tarot cloths and my like signature like perfume oil, which is called Moonslut, that's there, and I love Moonslut. So you can get that too.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great
Thanks,
night.
babe.
Come back soon.
Yes, bye.